Hi everyone, it's me Zeros. So before I start this video, I'm going to state a disclaimer right away because I know that I will see this in the comment section. I'm not calling out fursuit makers in particular, and I'm especially not saying to not support these businesses. Popular fursuit makers are making fursuits on the clock 5 to 7 days per week, and they are making a living off of this stuff. So for those of you who use Twitter, you may notice that very small accounts with 200 to 300 followers tend to blow up pretty quickly in popularity when they purchase from a popular fursuit maker. I use the term designer fursuits because that's a term that was used last year when Twitter was talking heavily about this subject. A designer fursuit is similar to the term designer clothing, which is high quality but heavily uppriced clothing which is bought just because it was made by a popular business like Supreme. If you're going to incorporate Supreme into the furry fandom, that is where you get the term designer fursuits from, which is what I'm going to be talking to you all about today. I purchased a mid-grade designer suit in the past, which I made a video about a couple of years back. I talked about the bad experience that I had with Lemon after spending $3,500 on a fursuit that did not meet my expectations for the price. Fortunately, they apologized and I'm getting a complimentary fursuit by them relatively shortly because they want to redeem themselves. My new unboxing and new review about Lemon is going to be posted probably in a couple months because I want to try and reverse some of that bad reputation that I made for them. Now, I used the word mid-grade when comparing Lemon to other branded fursuits because other fursuit makers tend to charge up to $5,000 to $6,000 for a fursuit, and I find that absolutely ridiculous. I made a rule to myself, and I give this rule to others for those that are looking for a fursuit, but if you're going to spend over $3,000 on a fursuit, you should be asking yourself if you're buying it for the name or for the style. A pet peeve of mine is when I see people intentionally buying expensive fursuits to essentially buy their own popularity on Twitter, TikTok, or other platforms. Obviously, anyone can do what they want, so I'm not stating that this is the golden rule, that you can buy an expensive fursuit if you just want attention. A pattern that I tend to notice with furries that buy expensive fursuits is that their tweets mostly blow up when they share pictures of their fursuit. If they were to post something like, quote, "I'm ready to meet my friends this weekend," end quote, then their tweet may get somewhere around 20 to 50 hearts. But if they state the same tweet with a fursuit picture attached to it, then they get several of hundreds of hearts on their tweets. Sometimes they go up to a couple thousand. So where am I going with this video? I'm making this video to bring more awareness to smaller fursuit makers in the fandom. I made a tweet like this in the past, but if I recall from memory, it goes along the lines of this, quote, "I prefer to order from smaller fursuit makers so that my fursuit looks more unique, not so that it's recognizable everywhere I go," end quote. Small fursuit makers, and many artists do this too, but smaller fursuit makers tend to underprice their content so that they can focus on getting their work out in the open. Not so that they can make a living off of it. This fursuit that you see in my recent videos was made by Pasiulo, a Brazilian fursuit maker who charged me only $600 for this fursuit head. Out of the 3 fursuit businesses that I've ordered from, Lemon Sugar and Spice, and Pasiulo, I prefer the style the most out of any fursuit maker. And I consider Pasiulo to be kind of a smaller fursuit maker. Now, when I compare smaller fursuit businesses to the larger ones, I don't see too much of a reason to price one more than the other. In the end, they're just fursuits. They're just both foam and carpet styled differently. Some businesses have more skill and practice than others, but that doesn't mean that I would find one better than the other. As long as they're both comfortable with their productions, then in the end, it honestly comes down to the price. If furries want to spend $5,000 to $6,000 on a fursuit, then they can do so. However, I don't see the point in it when there are hundreds of different designs in the fandom, and I don't see the point of preferring one over the other. As long as you find a fursuit that matches your preferences, then I don't care if you spend a semester's worth of college tuition just on a single costume. I know that at the beginning of the video I stated that I wasn't going to name any popular businesses, but I just wanted to bring attention to one company in particular, which is Don't Hug Cacti. When there was drama with DHC regarding multiple allegations, which I won't name, you can find a link below talking about the situation. Not only did Don't Hug Cacti get shot down by Twitter drama, but their clients have also been associated with the drama. Now this I do not tolerate. If someone bought a fursuit from them before this drama was brought up, this does not make them a bad person by unknowingly supporting a criminal. However, I do have some views about people who still buy from DHC, knowing these accusations, but I'm not going to go in depth with that. If this isn't proof that buying a fursuit from a popular maker just leeches popularity off the makers, then I don't know what is. They can soak in both positive reputation and negative backlash just by being a customer, which is something which I honestly can't even stand. I tend to compare smaller fursuit businesses and larger fursuit businesses as an independent shop and a factory. Smaller fursuit businesses tend to take their own time. They try to make sure that they're not meeting a specific quota to meet, well, I guess some fursuit businesses do this, but a lot of smaller fursuit businesses try to take their time to make sure that their content looks good and that people will try and commission them more in the future. Whereas the larger fursuit businesses try and meet a quota, and what they do is many of them try to create a lot of pre-mades and then they sell them off at conventions, so then they try and make more money quickly that way. I noticed that a lot of smaller makers tend to take more pride in their works, whereas the larger fursuit businesses try and rush and get things out. In fact, I noticed that large fursuit makers tend to get about 1 to 3 fursuits done per month, whereas a smaller fursuit business may only take about, I would estimate, 1 fursuit a month. Don't quote me on that, that's just kind of my experience in the past. But I do notice that smaller fursuit businesses try and make their content great, whereas the larger businesses, they tend to try and just get the most money that they can because they're trying to make a living off of it. I noticed that a lot of artists do this too. With fursuit makers, I guess that there are no exception with this. In conclusion, if you're debating about buying a fursuit that's made by a popular company, ask yourself, do you really want that fursuit because the designer is well known, or do you actually want the fursuit because the design is your preference? Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.